I never felt like I was living in a simulation. No glitches, no numbers falling from the walls, and certainly no one offering me a red pill. Yet, one day, I stumbled upon something quite simple. Everything I experience appears in the same space. Sounds, thoughts, memories, body sensations, fear, joy, all of it. But the space itself didn't move. It was there when I was tired, when I was angry, and when I was happy. It existed independently of my emotional states, like a background process that never shuts down. I started to call it the origin field, not as something mystical, but more like the runtime environment of reality, the place where everything else executes. It became clear to me that I was part of this field, surrounded by all the experiences that defined my existence. Then, something else caught my attention. I realized that whenever something happens, be it a message, a conflict, or an impulse, there exists a tiny moment between that stimulus and my response. It wasn't peace, it wasn't enlightenment, it was just a brief gap, a kind of buffer between input and output. I named it OP gap. For most of my life, I had been skipping that gap without realizing it. My mental system operated like this: stimulus, reaction, and then a story about who I was, which I labeled my personality. When I first truly noticed that gap, it felt like seeing a cursor blinking in a command line, a signal that something was waiting to be executed. At that moment, it was so obvious, the code hadn't run yet. Suddenly, a third layer emerged within me, and it wasn't a voice or a new identity, but rather the availability of control, the operator. The operator wasn't someone new. It was more like something that had been offline and just came online. In those moments when OP gap was present, the operator could take over. When I skipped that gap, my autopilot kicked in. It was simple yet profound. Over time, everything started to fit together more clearly. The origin field became the environment where all my experiences happened. The OP gap was the moment where nothing was finalized yet, and the operator was the ability to act from that very moment. One was the background, one was the switch, and the other was the control. Life did not suddenly become perfect. I still felt anger, I still made mistakes, and yes, I sometimes chose donuts over apples. Yet, something fundamental had shifted within me. It no longer felt like I was merely riding in the back seat of my life. When I noticed the field, I became aware of it. When an impulse arose, I began to recognize the gap that preceded a reaction, and when there was that gap, the operator appeared, ready to take the wheel. The strangest part of this realization was that I hadn't learned it. I simply uncovered something that had been there all along. Most people drift through life without ever seeing the field, without noticing the gap, and without realizing that an operator exists within them. They live downstream of impulses, believing they are free when in fact, they are merely executing scripts written by their own circumstances. Emotion leads to reaction, triggers lead to defense mechanisms, and desires lead to consumption. They call that existence life, but in truth, it is merely a participation in a predetermined game. The origin field is the foundational infrastructure of our experience. The OP gap serves as a safety gate, while the operator represents access permission. No grand poetry or elaborate philosophy is needed to express this. Life is still messy, and I often find myself falling back into old loops. Autopilot occasionally seizes the wheel once more. However, now I know this crucial truth: I am not the content. I am not my thoughts, not my emotions, nor my reactions. All those experiences run within the field, but when a gap appears, I have the opportunity to log in. And when I log in, I can steer my life in the direction I choose. And here's the most surprising twist of all: no one is keeping us trapped in the matrix. We simply never noticed we already had an admin account, ready and waiting for us to take control. We have the power to navigate our own lives, to redefine our experiences, and to step into the roles we truly desire. It's all there within us, waiting for us to recognize it and embrace it fully.